All right, everybody, welcome back to our long-awaited imperfect versus preterite breakdown. So what we're going to do here, I have 15 phrases that we're going to read in English in the past tense and then decide, is it imperfect, is it preterite? Some are going to be a mix of both, some are just going to be one. So let's dive right in. Number one, I was walking through the park when I saw my friend. All right, so the verb, there's two of them. Walking is caminar, and then saw, to see, is ver. So the first one's going to be yo. Caminaba por el parque cuando vi a mi amigo. All right, so yo caminaba por el parque cuando vi a mi amigo. For this one as well, you'll see it's I was walking. That is also the past progressive, so you could say yo estaba caminando. We're going to include some of those later on, but just so you can see. And this is our cuando, right? We said cuando. Before is going to be the imperfect. After is going to be that interrupting action, which is the preterite. So yo caminaba, what was I doing before I saw my friend? I was walking. I'm setting the scene there. I'm creating the background of the story. And then what happened? I saw my amigo. That's the preterite. All right. Number two, she studied a lot, but she did not understand the lecture. Okay. So for this one, we have study is estudiar. Understand is entender. So ella estudiaba mucho, pero no entendió la lección. Okay, so here again we're setting the stage, right? Who is she? Well, she's someone who studied a lot. This isn't just a one-time thing. She studies a lot always. So in her past, she studied a lot. Even after all that studying, she did not understand this lecture, right? The lecture refers to one thing. So this is a one-time event where she didn't understand the lecture. So for that reason, the second verb is going to be preterite. The first one is going to be the imperfect. Number three, numero tres. We were eating when the professor arrived. Okay, so the first verb is comer. Second verb, arrive, is llegar. And then we have when, which is cuando. So there it is again. So we're going to comíamos cuando llegó el profesor. All right, comíamos, receive the tilde, llegó también. Okay? Comíamos cuando llegó el profesor. Number four, número cuatro. You played football every day when you were young. All right, so the verb to play is jugar. So we're going to do jugabas. Because this is something that happened more than one time in the past. So it's the imperfect. So jugabas, football. Football. I'm going to keep it like football because this is American football now instead of soccer, which is also football. So jugabas, football. Cada día cuando. Now, interesting. We have cuando. But the phrase says when you were young. So when you were young here, remember that falls under our imperfect one of our requirements for the imperfect. So we are not doing the preterite after this cuando. So it's something to keep in mind, right? Cuando eres joven is how it finishes. And again, when you were young doesn't refer to one set completed action, right? It's a lot of time in our youths we were young. It's more than one day. There's continuation. So for that reason, it's the imperfect. So we kind of broke that cuando imperfect and preterite rule, which shows us that that's not the end-all be-all, right? That can't be the only rule that we follow or we think of when we translate. We really need to understand why the preterite or the imperfect is used. All right, number five, numero cinco. They lived in Spain and traveled to France last year. Ooh. Okay, so for this one, they lived is the first one. So ellos vivían, because they lived in Spain for a long time. Ellos vivían en España. Y now the verb travel, to travel, is viajar. This is a AR ending, so viajaron a Francia el año pasado. And we're going to add the tilde there. Francia goes like that. Vivían está así. En España, boom. So ellos vivían en España. Again, for a long amount of time, they lived in Spain. I'm also kind of setting up the story here too, right? So they lived in Spain, but they traveled to France one time. So there's kind of your interrupting, right? and they traveled to France last year. That's the one hit, right? We have a definitive timeline on that. Last year they traveled to Spain. So for that reason, it's the preterite. All right, numero seis, number 6. You went to the show last night and saw Adele singing Rolling in the Deep. Take a second and give it a read. All right, so for this one, we have a verb to go, which is ir. In the past will be you went. So it's going to be fuiste al espectáculo anoche y viste. Because the verb is ver, so to see in the past, I saw, you saw, it's you as well. Y viste Adele cantar, rolling in the deep. Okay. Espectáculo, recibe un tilde, cool. So this one is preterite, right? Because we're talking about something that you did last night. So we know all this happened last night. You went to the show last night, it's over. You saw Adele sing, it's over. So for that reason, it is the preterite tense, and why we use fuiste y viste as well. Something of note, anoche, I always thought meant tonight because noche is night. We translate to two. Anoche would be last night. All right. Número 7. My mom cooked while I would do my homework. Okay. So for this one, oh my gosh. Okay. Getting my English corrected too. That's crazy. So this one, my mom cooked while I would do my homework. This sounds like something that happened more than one time. This would is especially a giveaway. Remember, would could be the conditional tense, or it could be the imperfect in the past. In this scenario, would is being used as the past. So we are going to go mi mamá cocinaba, because the verb is cocinar. So in the past, imperfect is cocinaba. Mientras yo hacía mi tarea. And then hacía gets a tilde, mamá gets a tilde. So this one now, imperfect, because we're talking about stuff that, for a long time in the past. My mom used to cook while I would do my homework, right? I could have said that. It signifies that this happened more than one time, right? The last one, anoche, yesterday, we know one time. This one, many times in the past, my mom was cooking while I did my homework. So for that reason, it is imperfect. All right. Numero 8, number 8. We went to the beach every summer. Okay, so this one is going, the kind of telltale for this one is every summer. So it shows continuation. All right, which one shows continuation? The imperfect. We went, this is one of our irregulars in the perfect. It is ir in the past tense, so it's going to be íbamos a la playa cada verano. All right, we went to the beach every summer when I was a kid, right? When I was a kid, if I was to say that, would also be the imperfect. So this one is just a one verb imperfect. We went to the beach every summer. Íbamos a la playa cada verano. Número 9, number 9. He was 10 years old when he learned how to swim. Okay, so here we have our when again. Now, I hope you're able to distinguish whether it was imperfect preterite following that rule or not. Let's try it. Él tenía 10 años cuando aprendió cómo nadar. And then we're going to give a tilde on this one first, because that's the most important. Aprendió. And then tenía should have a tilde, and él también. Cool. Perfect. Oh, geez. All of them get tildes. All right. So, él tenía 10 años. That's me setting the scene, right? How old was he? Well, you have to know he was 10 years old when he learned how to swim. All right. What was the interrupting action? He learned how to swim. That was our interrupting action. So, for that reason, number 9 is él tenía, imperfect, 10 años cuando aprendió, preterite, como nadar. And nadar comes right after a preposition, so we keep it in the infinitive there. All right, numero 10. They were watching TV when the storm began. All right, so for this one, we're going to put ellos. Mirar is watching TV, so miraban la televisión. And now we have when, so it's a cuando. All right, what happened? Now the storm began. We're interrupted. Cuando empezar is going to be to begin. the verb. So cuando empezó la tormenta. All right, and empezó gets a tilde, televisión gets a tilde. So here's another one that follows that cuando rule. Setting the scene. What were they doing? What's the background information? They were watching the television when the storm began. Storm beginning happens in the middle of this setting of the scene, so it gets the preterite. Miraba la televisión, background, imperfect. Number 11. I wanted to go out, but it rained all night. All right, so to want is querer. So we're going to do the imperfect for this one. Yo quería. Salir is to go out. And then pero llover is to rain. So llovió toda la noche. All right, and llovió recibe un tilde. Quería should get one as well. Y toda la noche, right? Because it's, see? Gender, man. I'll tell you what, it really messes me up in Spanish. But that's okay. So what we need to know. Now we're not using cuando. Now we have a different word in the middle. Pero, right? Pero también can signify an interrupting action. So yo quería salir. That was me saying, man, I wanted to go out in the past. What happened? Something changed. There's an interruption. Oh, it started. It was raining. So I couldn't. Número 12. Number 12. She was writing a letter for her friend when the newspaper arrived. All right, so for this one, I am going to use the past progressives just so we feel a little more comfortable with it. So we're going to do ella estaba escribiendo. Remember, the verb is escribir. Ing in Spanish is yendo or ando, depending on if it ends in AR, it's ando. ERIR is yendo. Para su amiga cuando el periódico llegó. All right? So, ella estaba escribiendo para su amiga cuando el periódico llegó. Here we have, it's supposed to, I don't know why it's not tildeing for me right now, but llegó gets a tilde. And then estaba is a star in the imperfect. So we're using the imperfect of a star for the past progressive in Spanish. All right, estaba escribiendo para su amiga. Número 13, this one is fun. All right, take a second, figure out what you're going to do. There's 4 verbs in this one. See how you do. All right, so our first verb is going to be I tried. Now, I tried, we have to read this as a full sentence. I tried to tell her I was strong, but she did not listen to me. So that's kind of talking about one time, right? I was talking to her this one time. I tried to tell her I was strong, but she didn't listen. So the first verb for I tried is going to be yo intenté. All right, and the second word, to tell, is in the preterite, so we're going to keep in the preterite. Decirle, because I'm telling to her, I was strong. Now, I can't just be strong for one day, right? I was strong signifies more than one time. So this one is going to be the imperfect que yo era fuerte, pero no me. And now we're back to this one time. This one conversation that we're having, I tried to tell her I was strong in the past for this one conversation, but she didn't listen to me. Now we're back to the one-timeness of it. Pero no me escucha. That was escucha. Like that. All right, so here we go. Tilde it up. Yo intente. Okay, yo era fuerte, pero no me escucha. It erased yo here. That's fine because it's in the preterite tense. This is the only verb ending that has the E with a tilde, so we know it's in the yo. So, intente, one time. Decirle, infinitive in English. To tell is the infinitive in English, so we keep the infinitive in Spanish. Que yo era fuerte. Many times, for more than one day, a continuous thing in the past. I was strong, but right now we're back to this conversation. She's not listening to me. All right, so for that reason, we're kind of dancing around with this one. That was a tough one. That was a fun one. I should have finished with that one, but we have numero 14. You were sleeping when I sang the song. All right, so for this one, we're going to go dormir is the verb, dormías. Then because you were sleeping, we have our cuando, canté la canción. Dormías cuando canté la canción. That is the scene, you were sleeping. What did I interrupt with? My beautiful singing. right? Because my singing is phenomenal. There's a reason why they stayed sleeping, or why they were sleeping, and then I started singing because I don't like when people hear me sing. All right, so you were sleeping, and that's when I was singing. I interrupt in this story that I'm telling, I interrupt the action of the background of you sleeping with my song. And the last one, numero quince, they worked hard. They worked a lot and made a lot of money. So the verb here, to work, is going to be trabajar. And then the second one, make. And when we say make, it's like make a lot of money. So we're talking about make money. It's ganar dinero. All right. So they worked a lot. It's going to be ellas trabajaban mucho y ganaban mucho dinero. Trabajaban mucho y ganaban mucho dinero. Perfect. So this was talking about a continuous thing in the past, right? They worked a lot and then they made a lot of money. So let's scroll it back on up, see how you did. Cool. Next steps, get to reading, get to writing, get to listening, get to trying to speak. Time to start using the imperfect and the preterite in your everyday if you can. Write out 15 sentences in the past tense, and then try and translate them to Spanish. And then use AI, use Google Translate, use whatever you need to use to give yourself the extra practice that you need. This is something you need to just practice, practice, practice. And with time, I guarantee you, it will come. So do the drills, write out some sentences, and then go interact with Spanish. Listen to it and take note of when people use the imperfect, when people use the preterite, and see if it aligns with kind of what you've learned to this point. As always, any questions, feel free to put them in the comments. Have a good rest of your day.